So cave number 1 of Mamandur is a very simple cave. So as we move from here, we will be able to gauge how the evolution has happened. Even within Mamandur, we will be able to look at a very broad picture of how the evolution would have happened. And then after Mamandur, when we move into Dalavanur, Mahendravadi, and Lalitangura Parameswara, and then to Siyamangalam, we will have a very good picture of Mahendra's period's cave temples. So coming to cave 1, it's a it's an unfinished cave. Probably there are cracks that are visible. So probably because of the cracks, Mahendra just left it unfinished. You can see that there has been a invert this thing that is there. So the mother rock is here and the temple starts here. There is a basic plan of a single Ardhamandapa Mahamandapa in that. There is just a very basic plan that has happened. The Potika is clearly defined. One of the two stambhas has the Saduram and Vettu, Saduram and Kattu, sorry, Kattu. But then here we do not have Saduram Kattu at all. The stamba is very plain and looks like a square shaped Brahmakanta stamba, about which we will see later. Inside, if you see, because it is unfinished, even in Mamallapuram and in Mamandur and temples like this, you can see how they went about. Yeah, I call it Cadbury's chocolate. So if you see, there are checks madri. So this is how they would have gone about cutting it. Cutting the rocks and going inside. I call it like a Cadbury's chocolate madri, square. So this is a very basic cave that's there. Now going into cave 2. Yeah. So if you look at cave 2, it's a little different from cave 1, as in there is just not just a facade. Is not just one-sided. You can see that the rock has been chosen in such a way that they can make a temple like this. So two sides have entrances, and these have been taken out from each side, and then the pillars made. And inside you have the shrines, and you have you can, even from this view, you can see that there is another set of pillars inside. So therefore there is a clear demarcation of Mahamandapa and Ardhamandapa, and then the shrine, and the entrance is from both sides, two sides. So the facade is to two sides. Now this is again unfinished. How it goes about, yeah. So here you can see there are 5 pillars to this side, and there is a pilaster. I don't know if we can actually call this a pilaster, because this, although it looks like a pilaster, it is a pillar for this side also. It is a pillar for this side also. It is both a pillar and a pilaster maybe. It's still evolving. So that's where we can place it. And you can see here the demarcation of Saduram and Kattu is not very clear, although the attempt has been made. But in all other, here again it is not clear. But here it has not been made here. It is simply a fully Brahmakanta pillar, that's all. But here if you see, the Saduram, Kattu, Saduram, Potika is clearly visible. So this is again the Lakshana of Mahendra's pillars. Stout, very stout pillars with Saduram Kattu Podhikai alone, no other element that is, no other shape that is there. Elements may be introduced, decorative elements. Now again, if we see from here, there is a clear-cut demarcation between a Mahamandapa, then another set of pillars for the Ardhamandapa, and then inside, if you can just look at that, you have shrines with staircases that are there, about which we will just see now. This is the shrine that we have inside. Now we will have to get introduced to these features: Upana, Jagati, Kumuda, Kantha, Pakshashila, Shopana, Chandrashila, and also Kampa. I left out Kampa only when I see this I realize. So here you see, it is, although it is just a cave temple, there is no necessity to follow temple architecture as would have been followed in wood, etc. But then the attempt he makes is, although the facade or the entrance and the mantapas have to be made this way, because it is a huge rock that he is working on. And one more thing that I left is, the earlier cave temples we saw were all made of, materials were all soft stones, be it the Mauryas, be it Parabella, be it Ajanta, Ellora, be it Karle, Beat, whatever caves you see, Elephanta, anything prior to Pallava, they've all worked with soft stones, softer than granite. Granite is the hardest stone you have, and Pallavas, Mahendra has started working with hardest material, granite, and he is making all of this. So that in mind is what we have to look at, the appreciate the aesthetics of Mahendra. Going into it, he is, inside these cave temples also, he is introducing the traditional styles from the agamas and shilpa shastras, and he is trying to make the temple look like a temple to the people. So that is where he is. So inside he starts building these with the lakshanas. He is building these shrines. When he is excavating the rock itself, he is planned for a temple like structure inside the cave. I hope I am conveying the point very clearly. So here, if you see, there is a small projection from the mother rock bed that is there, which is the Upana. Upana is just a small projection that we give to the Adhisthana. The whole thing is called Adhisthana, and in the Adhisthana, the first small projection from the base is called the Upana. And after the Upana, there is another feature that is here, which is nothing but a plain square-like structure, which is the Jagati. And Upana, Jagati, and then a lotus leaf-like curvature that is here, which is called the Kumuda. Kumuda is literally lotus. So you have Upana, Jagati, Kumuda, and on top of the Kumuda, you have a railing-like thing that is running here. That is called the Kantha, because that is like the neck. And inside the Kantha, if you see, there are small rectangles to the bottom and to the top. If you go there and see, you can see. But there is a rectangle on top, there is a rectangle on bottom also. The whole thing is Kantha. And to the Kantha, there are two small rectangle railings that are there, which are called as Kampa. Okay. And the step is called Sopana. And the base, the half moon crescent like thing just below the steps is called as the Chandrashila, and the staircase, the this portion near the staircase is called as the Pakshashila. Now this Pakshashila will later, the basic Pakshashila that is here will develop into an elephant shape, a yali shape, a tiger shape, etc. Later in Chola stuff, Chola and later Pallava also, where we will have different types of Pakshishilas, where Hasti Hasta Shopana, Vyala Hasta Shopana, and that will go into where it is positioned, which is a Savakasha Antarala, and stuff like that. So we will talk about all of that, and for all of that, this forms the basis. So cave 2 is done. I'm moving into cave 3 and 4. So cave, this is how it is. If you go and see the huge boulder that is there, he set at one place and he has made a cave. The same boulder, that side he has made one more temple. So like that. So cave 3 is this, cave 4 is this. Of course, some technical material has this named as cave 1, 2, 3, 4. That numbering variation is there. Because when we go from 1, 2, 3, 4. I am named it this way. Some numbering variations might be there if you're going to refer to K.R. Srinivasan or scholars like that. I have named it a little differently. Now, this temple, cave 3, is called as Rudravalishwaram. There is a spelling mistake, Rudravalishwaram, and which again you can see Mahendra style pillars, stout, Saduram, Kattu, Saduram, Potika. And again you can see another Ardhamandava, Mahamandava fashion. So the elevation inside, for the inside shrine alone is like this. There are Pakshashilas, and there is a Sopana which leads into the shrine, and you have the Jagati, Kumuda, Kantha that is there. And then when I'm looking at the plan, I'm looking at the plan of Rudravalishwaram. This is the elevation. This is the plan. When you look at the plan of Rudravalishwaram, you can again see the front facade, Mahamandapa, Ardhamandapa. There is no Chandrashila for the central shrine. If you see, there is a Chandrashila for the other two shrines, which has there is a Sopana. There are again Antaralas, well formed small Antaralas, and Antaralas are the vestibules, and then you have the temple Garbhagriha itself. Now, as we've seen in the previous temples, the Mahendra type pillars, you can see they had no decorative elements. They simply had a Saduram Kattu, Saduram Potika fashion. But now when we come to Rudravalishwaram, you can look at the pillar again. The geometrically there is no difference. There is a Saduram, there is a Kattu, there is another Saduram, and on top you have the Potika. Geometrically, shape-wise, there is no difference. But then there is a small feature that is getting added. You can see these medallions, lotus medallions, Padmakara, that is there. The karukku solum Tamilla, it is called as karukku. Any decoration or scroll or things like that is called karukku. This is called kamala karukku or poo karukku or something like that. If it's a leaf like thing, it will be called as kodi karukku. So this is a Padmakara medallion that is there. So if you remember the Amaravati connection to all of this, I hope that you're all relating to Amaravati and Nagarjuna-konda that we've spoken about. There we have seen these Amaravati lotus medallions that were there. Even today, if we go to the Madras Museum, go to the Amaravati gallery, we'll have a lot of these lotus medallions that are there. Now compare this from 1st century BCE, 2nd century CE to what we have in 7th century of Mahendra. It's almost like as if it is inspired from this. It's definitely inspired from this, obviously. So that kind of decorative elements gets added at Mamandur. And back to this, you can look at how the Jagati, there is no Upana here. Jagati Kumuda here becomes a Tripatta Kumuda. Now the Kumuda that we saw going back, I want you to notice the difference. The Kumuda that we saw in cave 2 is literally like a lotus leaf, lotus flower bud. So therefore it is called as Kumuda is lotus in Sanskrit. So it is just a curvature that is there. But then coming to Rudravalishwaram, the Kumuda is threefold. 1, 2, 3. So therefore this Kumuda is again a Kumuda, but it is called as the Tripatta Kumuda. And on top of the Tripatta Kumuda, you have the Kantam, and in the Kantam you have 2 Kampas that we have already seen. Again, a Pakshashila, a Chandrashila, and the Sopana, and proto niches in which Dwarapalakas are placed. These are the Dwarapalakas. A Trimurti shrine. Therefore, we have Brahma. Brahma's Dwarapala, you can see always Brahma's Dwarapalas are rishis who are pot-bellied, or who are wearing this X-like mala that they are wearing is called Channavira. It is generally Channavira is there for Subramanya or Brahmashasta or Brahma. No deity other than these wears them generally. There is an exception in Kundrakudi where we have Vishnu, we have wearing a Channavira. Channavira generally for war or for Jnana. So you can see that X-like mala which is called Channavira. And Brahma's Dwarapalas may usually have a Vastra which is Aprapada. Until their foot they will be having their Vastra. And they will have an Yajnopavita. They're usually bearded. Jatamakuta is there. They will probably have an Ajyapatra in their hand, which is a which is a bag of ghee for performing the yajna and stuff like that. This is Brahma's Dwarapala. His Vastra, you can see up to the knee it comes, up to the toe it comes. It is called as Aprapada. And Vastra that comes up to the toe is called as the Aprapada. Yes, so that is Brahma's Dwarapala. Moving on to Shiva's Dwarapala, the lingam is new. The Shiva's Dwarapala, you can see he is again standing in a Tribhanga position. He holds a huge gada in his hand, and he rests his hand there, and his other hand is in Katyabalambita Mudra, where he is holding his hip or the thigh, and he is having a Kati Bandha, which is here. His Vastra is Ajanu. Here you can see the ending of the Vastra. It is not going Aprapada up to the toe, and he has a Yajnopavita. He has one huge Jata Mandala, Jata Bhara, not a Jata Mandala, sorry. He has a Jata Bhara on his head. I will show you what the Jata Mandala is. This is a Jata Bhara, and he is having Patra Kundalas. As we saw, he has a Palakaharam also. The Shiva's Dwarapala, again another Shiva's Dwarapala. And you have Vishnu's Dwarapala who are very slender, who are very, not that Shiva's Dwarapalas are not beautiful. You can, of course, notice the difference in the elegance between Shiva's Dwarapala and Vishnu's Dwarapalaka. But Vishnu's Dwarapalaka, usually the Vastra is Aprapada, and they have again Patra Kundalas. The hand gesture that they are showing to the sky is called as the Vismaya Mudra. So they are showing the Vismaya Mudra, and Shiva's Dwarapala you see are having Jatabhara, whereas Vishnu's Dwarapalas are having Kiritas on their head. So these are some identifications that we can make when we look at the Dwarapalakas with respect to the shrines. Cave 4 is very important. As you can see in what we saw in Mandagapatta, Cave 4 does not have an elevation or a staircase to reach the cave itself. Now, with cement, ASI has built a small staircase. Now, from the mother rock, a good portion has been carved out, and then you have the stambas, which are again stout Mahendra style, typical Mahendra style. You have the Saduram Katta, Saduram Potika, and on the Sadurams you have the medallions that have come about. And inside you do not have, you have only one shrine for Shiva, which again, if you can guess from here itself, there is a Jagati, there is a Kumuda, there is a Kantha, and then you have the Padavarga or the wall. Here you also have wonderful Pallava Grantha inscription, which is very, very broken. We are not able to read it properly, but it goes like this. Some things that we can glean from this is Magadajjuka. It's very broken, but it refers to the works that, I mean, how do we ascribe something like Matavilasa Prasana or Bhagavad-Ajjuka to Mahendra Varman? Is because of the inscription like this. In a temple that was done by Mahendra, he says, I composed Matavilasa Prasana, I composed Bhagavad-Ajjuka, and therefore we are attributing Bhagavad-Ajjuka and Matavilasa Prasana to Mahendra Varman. And from that, whatever we are learning from this literature, we say that it existed during Mahendra Varman. So to that, this cave temple is useful. Just Magadajjuka, Syam Matta Vilasadi Padam Prahasanoktam. So he says, you know, I did Matta Vilasa Prahasana. And some of the titles that we get from here is Shatru Malla. Malla is an enemy or a fighter. Shatru Malla, fighter for his enemies. Nitya Vinita, he is always very, very humble in nature. Satya Sandha, he always follows the truth, etc. We are moving into the next site, which is Mahendravadi. Can any of you tell me what is unique in Mahendravadi? Just based, I'm not detailing. Based on your first outlook, can you tell me what is unique in Mahendravadi?
It's a single separate boulder.
Yes.
There are steps actually.
Okay. That's enough. We've got the answer. So the major thing that stands out in Mahendravadi is that he has not chosen a huge boulder and then carved out of it. What he has done in Mahendravadi is very unique in the sense that he's just taken a cave. I mean, he's taken a boulder, which he has used completely to make a cave. Like for maybe probably if it had been more big or something, maybe he would have done a Vimanam also. I don't know. So it is the only cave temple. One more thing that is unique to Mahendravadi is it's the only cave temple dedicated to Vishnu. All other cave temples are dedicated to Shiva. The cave 4 of Mahendravadi, Mamandur alone is speculated by some historians to be a Vishnu temple. We do not have any other evidence to that. Now this is east facing. So what he has done is he has taken a big boulder which is 11 feet by 25 feet, and he has made use of that to construct a temple, cave temple again. Now the projection of the shrine you can see is there inside is 1.25 feet from the base wall, and we will just go in and look at that. Yeah, so this is what I mean. The Narasimha who's inside is very new, later than Vijayanagara period, contemporary, I suppose. The old might have been just a stucco or wood, or maybe it was just a painting. When K.R. Srinivasan is writing about it, he says the behind wall that is behind was heavily plastered during the British times. So maybe it was the plaster was to have a chitra or a painting there. Maybe that's just a speculation that we have. So you can look at the Dwarapalas. This is the shrine that's inside. We have another wonderful inscription that is there. Mahihatatam Satam Upa Mahendra Tatakam Idam Sthiram Urukaritam Gunabharena Vidarya Shilam Jananayana Abhirama Gunadhama Mahendra Pure Mahahati Mahendra Vishnu Grihanam Murari Griham. So that's the Grantha, Pallava Grantha inscription that says Mahi Hata Tamam Satam Upa Mahendra Tatakam Idam. For doing good for the people, here is Mahendra Tataka. So he builds this huge tank. He digs out a huge tank and says, "This is Mahendra Tataka." And then he says, "Sthiram urukaritam." This has been done in a firm manner by whom guna bharena, by a person whose gunas, whose qualities are abundant. Guna bharena. How did he do this? He says, "Vidarya shilam." Shila is stone. Vidarya is to break. He says, "I have broken the stone and made this wonderful work of mine." And how it is, he says, "Jayan jana nayana abhirama gunadhama." There's Jana Nayana Abhirama. It is Jana, people, Nayana, eyes, Abhirama. It is like a treat to the eyes of people, this temple. He says, Gunadhama. It is like it is an abode of all qualities that you can think of, all good qualities that you can think of. Mahendra Pure, Mahahati Mahendra Vishnu Grihanama. He calls it Mahendra Vishnu Griham and Murari Griham. It is dedicated to Vishnu. It is a temple of Vishnu. This is a inscription that he says. What related to architecture that we see is that he says it has all the necessary qualities of a temple. So Gunadhama, all the necessary qualities are there, he says. One more thing that he says is Vidarya Shilam. How I have done this is by breaking open the stones, he says. So these two are important, and the meter itself is a very, very rare meter. Nobody uses this meter in Sanskrit nowadays. That itself is something that's nice that we can know. It's really nice how he has composed Mahahati Mahendra Vishnu Griha Nama Murari Griha. How many mas come and stuff like Mahahitam Mahendra Tatakam, things like that. It's a very nice poem as such, and we also get to have uh, uh, so much to learn from that. I am not going into the script, which is a whole new animal altogether, which we will have to look at it separately, which I'm not going to. Next site, I am not going to go into detail of Dalavanur because again there are inscriptions, there are so much stuff to talk about in Dalavanur. He says, Dandanata Narendrane Narendrane Shakaritam Shatramalena Shaileswin Shatramallesharalaya, etc. etc. There are wonderful slokas that are there about which and all I'm not going to go. But why I want to introduce Dalavanur is I do not have a contemporary picture of Dalavanur, so I'm using a British period photo. So Dalavanur, what he does is, this is again Mahendra's, where you can see the Saduram Katta, Saduram Potika. Between two pillars of Saduram Katta, Saduram Potika structures, he introduces to the facade beautiful, really brilliant Makara Toranas. So this is called a Torana. A Torana is introduced here, and just look at the Makara. Fantastic Makara. It's a mythical animal, but from the Makara, its tails are all scrolls that are coming out, and it has a rider there with the Vismaya Mudra, and from its mouth emerges these scrolls, and from two Makaras to a beautiful symmetry, and in the middle there is a small Gana that is there. So he introduces this beautiful feature called Torana. There are different categories of Torana, Makara Torana, Chitra Torana, etc., which I am not going into currently. We will come to it a little later. This is for our basic understanding of Makara Torana, Torana, that's all. And now, till now, whatever we saw, the facade's top portion above the Potika did not have anything. But in Dalavanur, it gets introduced where a wonderful Kapota is introduced and the Prastara Varga is there. Starts to build up. Railings on top of the Prastara Varga, on top of the Kapota, starts coming up. And in the Kapota, again, you can see these beautiful Nasis that are there. The three Nasis are Kudus. He introduces three Kudus, and the Kudus he has not left empty. On the Kudu outline, he has drawn flowers and beautiful scrolls. In Tamil, we call it Kodikarukku. In Sanskritam, the Lakshanam is defined as Patralata. And inside these Kudus, Agamas, we will talk about Agamas again separately. That's a different animal to handle. Inside that, you can see these wonderful faces of ladies or gents or whatever. So these faces of Yakshas, Gandharvas are animals you can keep. So these are the Lakshanas that are being prescribed in the Agamas. So he in and in Shilpa Shastras. So he uses them. This wonderful creation, wonderful symmetry, the beauty, the simplistic artistic style in Dalavanur is just it stands out. And the Kudu itself goes on top. There is a small knife-like structure on top of the Kudu. That is called a Shakti Dhwaja. The Shakti Dhwaja you can find in Pallava and in Pandya alone. You will not find it in Chola. Generally, early Chola will have, when there is a transition period between Pallava and Chola. So in the early Chola phase, you will find a rare Shakti Dwajas in Chola architecture. Otherwise, you will not find. So that is something that when we go to Mahabalipuram also, these elements like the Shakti Dwaja, Nasi and stuff like that will be of use. So it's important that we know the facade of Dalavan work to understand a little much later. Coming to my last but one site, which is Lalitankura Pallaveshwara Griham. Lalitankura Pallaveshwara Griham is in the rock fort, Taimanava Swami Kovil in Tiruchi, Malaikotai. Malaikotai Ponaka, we will usually go to Taimanava Swami Matrabhuteshwara. We will go to the Uchipallayar Kovil. There are two other wonderful cave temples, which are lower cave temple and the upper cave temple. Lower cave temple is attributed to the Pandyas. Upper cave temple, just before, after Matrabhuteshwara, before Uchipallayar, you have this cave temple which is attributed to Mahendra. Why, look at the pillars, you can say it is Mahendra. It's wonderful that temple. Lalitankara Pallaveshwara Griham itself needs one whole session to handle. 1 hour of class is required for Lalitankara Pallaveshwara Griham, but I'll just move on. But you look at the pillars, one more feature that is added here. Can any of you tell me what uniqueness you notice in Mahendra style here? Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Tell me what is the new feature you think is here?
The steps to the temple.
Okay, steps to the temple. Oh. But we've had the Lakshana of Shobhana, we have had it before. Shobhana Lakshanam is there, Pakshashila Lakshanam also we have seen. So what is something new that you see here?
Like போத்திகைக்கு மேல, like, is it? Hello?
Tell me, go on.
போத்திகைக்கு மேல இருக்கிற அந்த thing in wait, I couldn't see the picture properly. Wait.
It's in the column, no?
And the columns are chamfered, illa?
Chamfered.
That is square and the sadram they've chamfered it.
Chamfered, yeah.
But center la chamfer avaliye.
Very good.
And octagon na.
Center la chamfer.
Air part it is.
No. What are you talking about? You're talking about this portion or this portion?
No. The sadram irukilla.
Sambathla irukkuradhu.
And the sadram is chamfered for, and adukku mela da and idu kattu varudhu. Then mela irukka sadram adiley chamfer agudhu.
No, that is
nadula adu eroda irukku.
Eroda irukku. That is not
அந்த போத்திகையில வந்துட்டு வரி வரியா இருக்கு இல்லையா, போத்திகையோட இன்சைட்ல.
Correct. I've given it away, I think, by pointing it there.
No, oh please. அடி வாங்க போறேன், நான் கஷ்டப்பட்டு கண்டுபிடிச்சேன்.
Wonderful. So we'll talk about that.
Because I've been to this place.
Okay.
That takes 9 minutes.
Okay.
Timing patko.
Right. So yeah, I'll end it accordingly and then we'll restart the call. So yeah,
yes,
I'm muting you guys back.
Okay.
So yes, as Kirtana said, definitely it is the Potika. This is due to erosion efflux of time. So it would have been a beautiful Kattu Sadram only. The Potika, what happens is, it was just a normal Potika that was there. Here there is this beautifully, it has been carved out as a wave madri. Semicircle after semicircle after semicircle has been attempted in the Potika. So this is the varieties of Potika start emerging. So this Potika is called as the Taranga Potika because you have wave-like structures on it. And the Taranga on the Potika is not completely, there all over the Potika. What he has done is, in the center he has introduced a small belt-like thing, small rectangle on the Taranga, where it is not, Taranga is not there, but instead in that small belt, what happens is he has introduced scrolls of leaves and flowers. So that is called as a Ratnapatta. So The Potika evolves into a Taranga Potika, and in the Taranga Potika, it is not a complete Taranga Potika. The Taranga Potika is having a Ratnapatta in between, which in turn has Patralatas or Kodikarik. And the name he gives is Iti Jagati Vidita Namna Lalitam Lalitankurena Pallavapatina Kratina Karitmeta Lalitankura Pallaveshwara Griham Hitam. He says, Iti Jagati Vidita Namna Lalitam Lalitankurena. Lalitankura is another title assumed by Mahendra. Why? Because Ankura is sprout. And Pallava, as we saw, mythological origins of Pallava is because Menaka and Ashwatthama put Pallava, the baby, on sprouts. Therefore, Ankura, Lalita Ankura, the elegant sprout, is a name that Mahendra assumes. Lalitam is elegant. Lalitam Lalitankurena Pallava Patina. This beautiful, aesthetic, elegant temple was built by Lalitankura, who is the emperor of the Pallava clan. Lalitam Lalitankurena Pallava Patina Kratina. Done by him. Karitam Yetat. Done by him. Look at the beauty of the meter. Lalitam Lalitankurena Pallava Patina Kratina Karitam Yetat Lalitankura Pallaveshwara Griham Hitam. And he calls it Lalitankura Pallaveshwara Griham Hitam. For good, he says. Done this for good. Now, entering into this, he is also, all this is his titles that are inscribed. How he uses the space is what we'll have to see. When we go to Kanchipuram again, I will want you to look at Rajasimha, how he uses the space to introduce titles of his. So the wet portion, the cut portion here, the octagonal portion, he uses to, and some of them is, maybe it's not visible to you this side, so I have written it in a paper. So this reads as Anitya Ragaha, Anumanaha, Avani Bhajanaha. So these are the titles that he gives. Avani Bhajanaha, protector of the world. Anumanaha, Anitya Ragaha, person who does not have raga is affection towards anything. So he says Anitya Ragaha, I will love one thing newly every day, he says. Some things like this we are able to contemplate and see what he is telling. Some of them we truly don't know. This reads Vambu. Vambu or pair kudukuran. We don't know what it is. It is rather funny. And this reads Vuka. We don't know what Vuka is. This is Vlapu. We don't know what it is. So some things we are able to comprehend. Some things we are not able to comprehend. Vambu, Vuka, Vlapu, no. But Anitya Ragaha, Anumanaha, Avani Bhajanaha. Then there are some other titles that he gives himself here, which I have not, I don't have a photo of. You know, Chitrakara Puli, he says, I'm the tiger among painters, and painter in the sense, artist. Chitrakara Puli, Satya Sandaha, a follower of truth. And he says Lakshita, who's very ambitious, and Matta Vilasaha, he calls himself Matta Vilasaha. Stuff like this. So going into the plan of the temple, it is like this. There is a shrine this side, and this is the facade, as you can see. And here to the left, there is a Gangadhara panel that is there. And here you can see again Sauduram Kattu, Sauduram Potikai. Potikai becomes a Taranga Potikai. And in the upper Sauduram, you have lotus medallions that have been introduced. Lotus medallions was introduced in Mamandur cave number 4 and 3. The inner plan is like this. The Shopana is here. This is somewhat different. You cannot divide it into Ardhamandapa, Mahamandapa. Instead, there is a big hall in front of the shrine. There is an Antarala, Shopana, Pakshashila, Antarala, and then the Garbhagriha itself. The inner shrine elevation is like this. If you look at it, the right side shrine, the pilasters to both sides are classic Mahendra style, Sauduram Kattu Sauduram, and the Potika here comes this side, if you can see. Here the Potika is this side, but here if you look at it from this side, what happens? The Potika comes towards you instead of going to your right or left. So you can imagine how this is. Potika, Taranga Potika with the Ratnapatta comes towards you. Now to look at the architectural features here, there is a wonderful demarcation that has been done. And like Dalavanur, coming back, the upper portion has the Kapota and the Kudus have been introduced. From Dalavanur, it moves further into in Lalitangura, Pallaveshwara Griham. So this, as we have seen there, Shopana, Pakshashila. Here, to demarcate and clearly understand what it is, you have the Jagati Tripatta Kumuda. You can see the 3 lines, 1, 2, and 3. Tripatta Kumuda. Kantha portion, and Kantha portion has 2 rectangles up and down, Kampa and Kampa. The Kampa plus the Kantha, and on top of it you have the Pattika. So this portion which joins, which makes a symmetry, is called the Pattika. And on top you have the Padavarga, the wall portion, which has 2 pilasters which are square, and it has malas and malasthana where the mala is resting, and on top you have an amalaka, and the proto niche is here in which the Dwarapalakas. These Dwarapalakas have become symmetrical, whereas till now we didn't see symmetric Dwar. Each person was doing one thing. Here they become symmetrical. That is one more thing. So I'll let you ponder over the architecture of this while we start again with a little bit into the Gangadhara panel. So we'll pause here.